Good morning.
Good morning.
That's a lot of suits in here. Makes me nervous.
So we're going to make this an interactive session. There's no agenda on this. It's going to be quite, impromptu, and we can do some questions from the audience. But to kick things off, I was with Kelsey last night. He came to our speakers' drinks, and we had some chats about, as we usually do, around technology and the future and AI and those kind of things. Then we walked back to the hotel, and then Kelsey ordered an Uber, and an actual Waymo Uber turned up, and you hadn't driven one before. So I left Kelsey, closing the door, into his Waymo, and I haven't heard about that experience. So I'd love to hear, first of all, what was your experience of Waymo?
So the context here, I am super AI skeptic. Like, seriously, I worked hard for these skills. And for anyone talking about replacing me with a chatbot, I'm not buying it. And what I've noticed over the years, if you put AI into the thing you're building, it tells me it doesn't work. That's just been my experience. If you say AI thing, it probably doesn't work yet. And so when I ordered the Uber, specifically, I was assuming a driver was going to show up the way it's been showing up for the last decade. And this Waymo pulls up. I'm like, what part of the game is that? And they have some partnership, and so the Waymo shows up. And these two got really excited about it, like he's going to die. And I got in it. And remember, they don't put AI anywhere on the side of the car. It's just a car. It comes up, and it's well thought out. You walk up to the car, and your phone says, unlock, right? So you know it's yours. And this is the type of maturity you would like to see in a product, right? Like, I'm already feeling a little uncomfortable. And so seeing that little touch was like, oh, someone's thought about this. So you unlock the car, and then you sit down. And then it kind of explains to you what's going to happen. Like, put on your seatbelt. Those fundamentals still exist. Right? You don't get rid of all the safety protocols because it's new technology, right? Seatbelts are still viable technology even in the new world, right? So that was a good sign, right? Seatbelts still a thing. And then you hit start. And so the whole time I felt like I'm in control. And the whole time it felt like the machine was in service of the human, me, the customer. And it took about 30 whole seconds for me not to think about it anymore. It just works. I think I spent most of the time sending pictures to my wife, like, I am in a car driving itself. This thing is very real, right? No fluff, know it's coming soon. Right now, you can sit in it. And the litmus test for me, if you all have an infrastructure background, when tech gets boring, like there was no excitement, no one got hit, the car didn't stop and start flashing, it didn't even try to talk to me outside of explaining the scenario. And I got to my hotel, nice and safe, no fuss. Boring, reliable technology. Like, to me, it's like that's very real. And that's the type of thing that I can get behind. So to me, whatever my bias was with AI, it's still there, but it's really nice to see things that actually work in the real world that I think is in service of humans. And I hope that's how the rest of this industry starts moving forward once the hype cycle dies down. So yes, it was a fantastic demonstration of how much progress we've made and how mature some of this technology is.
Can I ask, Kelsey, how long did it take you to forget that you were in a Waymo and that there was no driver?
I don't think you can forget on the first time around. Because in my head, it's still like the potential of death is high. Because you're looking at this thing do everything that you do. That's the unlock. Right, you're like, hey, is it really going to stop at this traffic light? That person in front of me doesn't look like they're paying attention. How's this thing going to respond? And I think the thing that's really nice about this current implementation, all technologists that are actually brilliant, you can't build things for the future that don't work now and that are not familiar. So that steering wheel turning that you can visibly see, it instilled a whole bunch of confidence like, oh, it's doing all the things. And my guess is they don't need that thing. But it's there, and it gives me a visual feedback loop. So I would say you're still in amazement, but I can imagine there are people in certain cities who take these all the time. I guarantee you it's nothing to think about. They just do it and didn't think about it as a second thought. It's like getting on an airplane.
Yeah, I think it took me about 30 seconds after it stopped at a stoplight and someone random walked in front of the road, and it braked carefully, rather than I've been in Ubers before, someone steps out and they slam on the brake and they beat the horn and everything. But this Waymo seemed like it had already spotted that and it had already reacted and just come to a gentle stop and then pulled away.
What do you do if the Waymo hits the person? Like,
Run.
like it's not your fault that I wasn't driving. Like, sorry, I apologize on behalf of the Waymo. So that's still yet to be figured out.
Yeah, interesting. So what was your big takeaway from that? From you mentioned product, almost like it was a well-built product that was designed by a human, but using the ingenuity of AI.
Again, it's like using the ingenuity of the internet or TCP/IP or encryption. Like whenever you start talking about the ingredients, like when I go to a restaurant, I don't really care. Like if it's a good dish, it's just a great dish. You don't have to highlight every single ingredient. Of course, people have allergies, so you want to be transparent as possible. But to me, it's one of the first finished products in this space. A lot of people, how many people are still experimenting with random chatbots at work, thinking it's going to unlock the future? It's not working. Probably doesn't work. You're probably like, I would never use this. You're like, I wouldn't use this. And so I think it has become my new bar for what an AI product looks like. If you show me a product and you don't have to mention AI and you just use it underneath and it's better than what I get without it, that's how I know you're winning. When we get to that point, that's how I know who the winners are. If you're still saying AI is a thing and like to try to trick me into thinking this thing is better without it actually being better, that's my new bar. And I think I can use Waymo as kind of my North Star for making that determination.
Sounds good. Should we throw it open a bit?
Yeah, so the thing I like the most, and I ask all the moderators, you all have like burning, desiring questions. If you don't know who I am, I've been in this tech game for a long time. My last 8 years were at Google. I retired as a distinguished engineer. During that time, during that stint, I worked on a lot of open source technologies, Kubernetes being one of them. And the thing that made me excited about Kubernetes, not that it was like the future of infrastructure 10 years ago, it was a checkpoint on the previous 10 years of infrastructure. That's what made Kubernetes interesting to me. A lot of people looked at it as like, oh, is this what we're going to be doing in the future? It's like, well, that's what people were doing last decade. We've just packaged it up so you could do it too. And for most people, it's a 20-year lag between good ideas being used in production, it being packaged enough so it works for you, and now we're at the other end of that spectrum. We're at like the 10-year mark of Kubernetes, I think technically last year, and most people are now at the stage where you start complaining about it, right? Like, it sucks, I can't believe we're doing this, wait, something new comes out, and that's how I know that we're on this curve. There's lots of things like that in the world, so we're gonna open it up for questions, and I'm not as biased as I used to be. I'm retired now, I can kind of think for myself, do what I want, and so this is your opportunity to ask any question you want, and I promise very detailed and thoughtful answers. So don't be shy. Raise your hand if you have a question, and then you will dictate how great this session could be. Who wants to raise their hand? Right there, quick. See, this is the type of attendees like, oh, Kelsey's speaking, I'm driving to go see him. Thank you for that.
I like wide aisles, I will say that.
Great. Yeah, so my main question is, a lot of this is driven by human-driven design. The principle is that we are focusing on what works to make people feel comfortable with what they've already been dealing with. How do we enable the people in our lives who are already thinking about those things to be the focus on the future of this?
Let's ground it into some like real-world example, like writing software, right? These, you can think about the software developer as your customer if you're on the infrastructure side.
I'm on the every side.
Okay.
So
let's just say you're on the infrastructure side. Some people are literally on one side. I hear a lot of people say full stack, and then I ask them about certain parts of the stack. They're like, oh, yeah, not that side. But let's just say you have an area of specialties, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you think about this workflow, you have a business that is trying to build a product for their customers. And ideally, they would try to do as little work as possible to manifest that product. Right? So if I can go buy something for $5 and turn around and sell it for someone for $10, I made a $5 profit doing nothing. That is the dream of all businesses, to be able to just arbitrage the thing in the middle. If I have to do work in order to make that thing ready for you, so $5, and I got to go and pay an average of $5 or $3 to developers to build UIs, security people to secure that UI, DevOps people to do, not sure what they're doing, but they cost money. All that adds up, and now we're at $8 for that thing, and I have a $2 margin, assuming that I actually build the right thing. All of that work, is it necessary? That's the question I ask. Does every DevOps team need to install Kubernetes and learn the best practices and spend 3 years building a custom platform that none of the developers will actually want to use? Does everybody got to learn the next programming language from the ground up to implement OAuth for the 1,000th time in their career? So for the last 20, 30 years, most people are literally doing the exact same thing, either for the first time because they've never done it before and their company have done it before. But to me, there's not a lot of net new things that have never been done before. So given all of that, right, traditionally, we turn those into programming languages that the compiler then targets the machine. We turn those into libraries and frameworks so you can just import an SDK and make simple function calls. But you still have to learn all of those things. So, okay, let's zoom forward now. If you have these models, what are you modeling? Like you walk around and you have a model. You're a full stack engineer. You're on all the sides. It probably took you decades to learn all of those things. Every once in a while, you get to go deep. So you have your own model of the world. Someone asks you how to build an Uber clone. You have a specific way that you think you would build that. Have you ever worked at Uber?
No.
Right, so you would be wrong when you go try to build that thing. You lack the context of dealing with something like that for the last 15 years. It looks subtle on the surface. Every developer is plagued with overconfidence. Oh, I can do that in a weekend. You can clone a multi-billion-dollar organization in a weekend. Like, yeah, just a little JavaScript. And the truth is, it is 15 years of knowledge that's required to make these production stable, fully regulated across every country they do business in. The goal, I think, going forward is, can we take that human collective and put it in a model so that the next person doesn't have to spend 15 years learning the same thing? My guess is that that model won't just be a generative AI prompt. I don't think that's going to be it. I think we're going to end up using those tools to create better frameworks and standard libraries, because it doesn't make sense to generate the same code over and over again. It doesn't make sense for humans, and it doesn't make sense for LLMs to generate the exact same snippets of code over and over again. It's not even logical. It's very expensive also, by the way. So I think we're just going to end up in a world where there's going to be way better frameworks and SDKs, like ready to mix cakes. And the last thing I'll say here, which I think is important, we were having this discussion over maybe lunch yesterday. And if all of this technology gets extremely good, right? Let's just say you get all this magical code generation stuff. You get all of these things that just know how to secure apps. Let's just say it happens. What's left? What's actually left to do? And it got me thinking that I think what we see in the fashion industry, right? It's the brand, it's the taste, it's the style. That determines what people tend to buy and engage with. So all the people that have those design skills today, they're prohibited from building things. If you have a good eye for what a good application should look like, it's almost a non-starter, because you would have to do what you've done and learn the full stack or hire an entire team to bring it to life. So imagine if a tastemaker could describe what good looks like and be that much closer to just bringing it to the world. And so branding, style, and feel return back as the number one things that people will be after. Some companies already have those today, but if you only have one or the other, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where I'm sort of leading this question, is we need to be focused on what we can enable other people to do that they were not already able to do because they either lacked the rest of the background or they just didn't know how to ask for the tools they needed.
Yeah, and I think the challenge here, though, is that there are billions of people on in this earth that don't get to build those tools. The barrier is too high to get lucky, right? It's not like the same group of people will figure out everything to the end of time. We just don't have everyone able to participate in this particular industry because of the barrier to entry, right? I know some of you all have done things like teach a new person how to use Vim to write code. It's not nice. You log into Vim for the first time, you don't know how to get out. And you're like, this ain't the career for me, right? So having that bar disappear, what happens when the next 100 million people start building things based on their own taste and their own experiences?
So it's going to come down to the product quality, the UX, the customer service, all the other elements.
You see it throughout your life right now. Your toasters, your mobile phones, your clothes, a lot of that stuff is so commoditized that the only price premium between the two is that brand, that style, that look and feel, who's willing to go the extra mile. And it's all risky. The thing about taste, it's risky. If people look at it and say, I don't like it, then you automatically lose, right? A shirt's a shirt, right? I can put it on, put both arms through, that's it. So where do you separate yourself from the pack? It has to be around design and style. And if that doesn't work, then you're completely out of business. There's a question there.
We got a lot of hands, so
Okay.
choose a side. You want
Should we go this side for one question?
Yep, right here. She's got one.
Hi, I'm Mike Schwartz. I'm the founder of Glue, a little cybersecurity company here in Austin. So thank you very much for coming here and supporting UT, where my daughter graduated this past weekend.
Congratulations.
Thank you. One launch. So one of the big challenges of AI today is securing the ability of agents and infrastructure to delegate, to do things on our behalf or on our organization's behalf. And what I'm wondering is, are the current access control models that we have today that are centered around people, like role-based access control and attribute-based access control, are those just not working? And do we need a new mental framework or capabilities-based model to actually secure the infrastructure that we have today? Thank you.
No. No, 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 no. And I see this time and time again. I do a lot of due diligence for venture funds, and I'll meet young people, and they'll say things like, hey, I'm working on something that's going to replace sales reps. I'm like, you're going to replace sales reps? Like, yeah. I got this AI thing, and you just type in this window, and you can replace your sales team. I said, okay, before we start, have you ever sold anything? No. I was like, I don't think you're going to be the one to do it. Because you don't understand what it is. And the reason why I say that is there are a lot of people, as smart as they are, as brilliant as they are, they have no experience or context. If you think about who's using some of these AI systems, they're typically people, right? And so a person is literally making a decision on what to do. For example, if I go to the chatbot and say, show me everyone's salary at the company, who are we giving permission to? The chatbot or me? We're giving it to me. Can Kelsey see everyone's salary at this company? Forget the layers in between, right? That chatbot, as sentiment as people want it to be, I am the one responsible for either giving that data out or seeing that data and taking action on it. So the current systems we have, they're pretty robust. They're just complicated. How do you model HR permission scheme for me? How granular do you want to get? Can I see the people that report to me? Can I see the whole company? If I can see the whole company, why? Do I work in HR? Did Mark just grant me God mode for the whole company? Do I work for Doge? I'm sorry. Yeah, we're in Austin, very little. And so I think in this case, I think the permission models we have, the surprise to me is that people are reinventing things they don't understand. Like when I saw MCP for the first time, it's an API. Like seriously, like if you've been around more than like 7 days, when you saw it launch, you're like, okay, this is AI, so there must be magic. Let me see how it works. It's like there's a server. It's like, oh my God, a server. Does it still start with an S? Yeah, like S. Okay, it's a server. So what does it do? You can post messages to it and call other things. Well, what are the other things? APIs. Which ones? The same ones you already call. Go look at it. So like when I get confused, I just want to see the code, right? Most of these MCP shims are literally adapters on top of existing infrastructure. And he's like, but why does it have to be that way? Because AI doesn't necessarily replace everything underneath. If you're using Oracle, I got news for you. and that's your system of record, you will still be using Oracle in this world. An LLM is not a database. It interfaces with the database. Now, is there value there? Of course. You almost have this universal query language. If you build these adapters, this universal query language can now communicate to all these data backends. But to your point, if you do that, the naive implementations now, what entity is this MCP agent running as? This is simple. We've solved this before. Whether it's a JOT token or a TLS certificate, who are you making this request on behalf of? We've been doing this for like 20 years. You log into a website, your browser gets a token, that token is passed on every other request you make, and then a decision is made by the underlying systems. Is this user, based on my permission scheme, allowed to take this action or not? I think that same model can work. It's just that the current tooling almost forgot that those things exist, and someone's thinking there has to be something net new. I don't know if you need something net new because you're still interacting with the same subsystems as before, right? And so I think if people get smart, and you're starting to see this with MCP, they're bringing in the same logic that we have from HTTP. The authorization schemes are coming back. The permission models are coming back. And I think people are getting a little bit smarter about stop dumping data into one big bucket and then letting the LLMs run wild, because it's hard to replicate the permission scheme. People are doing it, but you have to be mature in order to do it. And the last thing I'll say here is I think a lot of enterprises, for the sake of speed, have just stopped the diligence necessary to be responsible. And it's going to come back and bite them. But you know the fundamentals. You'll apply those fundamentals, and then I think it will get better over time. But we do need the maturity to show up. And I think it's just lacking in some of these areas.
Did you say a question? Hello, my name is Kendall. I'm based here in Austin, and I work at a company called Diagrid. So I'm pretty involved in the open source space. I work on the Dapper project specifically. One of the questions I have is sort of about abstraction. So when I was looking at your Relax AI product, for example, to me, a lot of these prompt-based interfaces is the next level of abstraction, right? I don't have to go out and talk to the Kubernetes API directly. I've worked in the platform space in terms of abstraction, so creating like Kubernetes abstraction platforms. So if you think about EKS to ECS to Fargate, those kind of things, for example. So I'm just curious, with this new level of abstraction that it makes kind of Kubernetes as the universal control plane super possible, where I'm not necessarily doing the deployment, I don't have to do the maintenance and management, what do you think happens from like a platform level abstraction? So like Kelsey, I'd be curious if you think about like the Fargates or the cloud runs in GCP, and then you think about the abstraction of these new platform interfaces where you can actually talk to things that would otherwise be really operationally complex to manage. Where does the line fall for some of these like cloud providers in terms of how they evolve? Does Kubernetes become more abstracted continuously as a platform service, or do you think there's a lot of focus on these user interfaces that make operating those less complex? Does that make sense?
No, and it's a dope question, because the subtlety of your question is an extreme level of expertise that you have to get to even think about it this way. Most people don't think about any of this stuff this way. Most people think automation, something, DevOps, something, agile sprint. That's it, as far as they go. And I call that 20 years of 1 year experience problem. It plagues the industry big time. What you described is super fundamental to, I think, all of this stuff. So to me, there is automation, there's abstractions, and the line is so thin. So if you think about what automation is, that's the thing where you say, do this series of things till completion, right? You don't think about abstractions in that world because you may not even see the automation in work. Now, the abstraction piece is like, how do you use the automation? So the abstraction of like running water, the handle to the faucet, fully automated. You lift that handle, all you know is sink faucet. Beautiful abstraction, but a lot of automation under the covers. But then we have this back and forth in the industry. So let's take Kubernetes. Kubernetes is one part automation and then one part abstraction. And there's this constant battle of where to put things. So if you have a bunch of servers and you take some shell scripts, you can automate those servers in a way that Kubernetes seems unnecessary. I have 3 servers. I use my CI/CD, a binary pops out. Shell scripts run, and my apps just run. I don't see the reason to use something like Kubernetes. You would be an intelligent person because you've built an automation that makes Kubernetes irrelevant. And so when people ask, should I use Kubernetes, I'm like, what are you currently doing? Is the first question I ask. And they say, our company makes trillions of dollars per year in profit with 3 servers and 5 bash scripts. I'm like, do not even look at Kubernetes. It's a waste of your time. So then let's get to the part where Kubernetes becomes this universal automation layer. We see what the process is. You take a thing and you copy it to a bunch of servers. You give it memory and CPU. If thing crashes, you restart thing. If thing needs storage, you mount the storage. We've been doing that for so long that you can automate it away. And so that's what Kubernetes does with some primitives, the pod, the container, blah, blah, blah. But then how do we tell Kubernetes what to do? The abstraction, the YAML file. That thing that says, I would like a deployment to always be running. I would like 3 versions of this app running across the cluster, the abstraction. So not 5 nodes, but a cluster. It's a really nice abstraction from that regard. But if you've ever used Kubernetes for a long period of time, all those YAML files, anybody ever used Kubernetes? You start crafting those YAMLs, you're like, damn, we have 200,000 YAML files. So we've moved from infrastructure as code to infrastructure as data. And to me, it's a much better world to play in because now we actually have a schema. The one thing that I liked about Kubernetes, it brought a type system to infrastructure. So instead of bash scripts and imperative, who knows what's going to happen, we now have this schema that says, here's what should happen. And then we give it to these automation loops. So then if you do that for a while, the next problem is going to be, I don't want to teach my developers Kubernetes. There's a lot of YAML files, low-level schema, low-level details. And then you know how this works. We'll watch patterns. If you use Kubernetes for a couple of years and you look at all your YAML files, oh, when people deploy a Java app, they tend to create a deployment object. They want 3. They have an auto-scale policy, maybe some security roles, load balancer. You start looking at the pattern. It's the same 5 YAML configurations every single time. So what do? Maybe we put an abstraction on top. And that abstraction could be something like a Helm chart. It could be something like cross-plane. It could be something like the way the Civo team did it. They built a cloud provider around this same type of concept. And so that what you get back is what I prefer as company.yaml. And I tell everyone, your ultimate goal with all these tools is to say, what is the minimum amount of information that I need from a developer to get what they want? Deploy this app at this version in this region, right? These are like 4 things, and the rest can be deduced as policy. So if you took a YAML file with 4 variables in it, that would be the ultimate abstraction. So the LLM part, so now let's get to the LLM part of your question. Would I ever want to use an LLM if I can literally write down 4 variables? And the thing that I've been thinking about until someone shows me something better, when I buy an airline ticket, the thing I don't like is expressing myself over and over again. We hold the context in our minds already. I know that there's a wedding next week, so I can't fly during that time. I put my dates this range. I know how much I want to pay, but I don't want to tell you that. So what does the airline do? You give it where you're coming from, where you're going, and a date. And it says, here's all the available flights. And that grid allows me not to express all of my context again. So if I was a developer, I think I would hate using a LLM over and over again to express things that I already know. I would probably turn that prompt into a saved query. I would probably want to put the prompt in a file. And instead of writing a long sentence, we would abbreviate. And if you abbreviate the sentence, you're going to go back to key values. All I got to tell you is these 4 predicates. And then we can go to taste, brand, and experience. And so you work at, I guess, Microsoft, I would imagine? Diagrid. So you use the open source project. Yes. Got it. And so your world, so your whole goal now is to provide an experience that I can't build myself. Right? If you can turn what I just said into 3 checkboxes, and my app is now running, and you don't teach me anything about Dapper, all of these other adapters and sidecars, you are winning. And I think a lot of people in this room that spend all this time building their own platforms probably want to stop doing that at some point and move on to a world that works. And the last thing I'll say here is You got to be like the Waymo, though. It literally has to work. If Waymo ever stops and says, hey, I'm tired, it's your turn to drive, that wasn't the deal.
I think, Kelsey, something that we've touched on briefly before that you mentioned here is that when you get to these 4 levels of YAML, it actually doesn't matter what's under the hood, whether that's Kubernetes or whether it's containers or whether it's VMs, right? Of that level of abstraction, when you get to those 4, Kubernetes can disappear tomorrow, and you should still be able to take that experience to end users.
Now you're going to like the next level of all of these conversations. All this stuff that we're doing in the middle, is it necessary? Like in high-performance computing, we use generic things like CPUs and GPUs because they're generic, but they're not the highest performance thing. When you buy an edge device, we go into like custom hardware where the logic is burnt into the hardware, and it moves exponentially faster. That's another way to think about abstractions and automation, right? If you can get that thing dialed down, but the thing is it's fragile. If someone doesn't like that workflow, they're kind of stuck, and then back to the way we are. So this is why I think cloud providers are almost forced to stop at that Kubernetes layer, or at least provide it as a primitive while you explore different ways of working. Beautiful question, by the way. Like, if you don't understand the context of that question, I think all the platform engineering is rooted in that question. To me, platform engineering is the only thing you do on something that you get off the shelf and all the work necessary to make it work for your company. And when that goes away and there's nothing to do, I promise you there won't be this file of platform engineering anymore, because the platforms will be good enough.
Questions over here?
Hi, my name is Virju Patel. I was recently at Databricks for 4 years, experienced the surge in data, and just recently left to start a data and AI consulting company. One of the things that I'm witnessing is customers don't even know where to start, and they're forced to like get the FUMO AI effect in place. What's the most basic way to get them to build out their process map so we know exactly what they're doing? So it's like, all right, what portion of this saves money so it's profitable before going straight into the weeds? Have you seen any success?
But you know, for 20 years, this has been the problem. Like, for example, there's like groundbreaking medicines all the time. Like, they come out and you see the commercials, like this medicine, you have this disease that only gives you like, I don't know, 3 months to live. This medicine will give you 6 months. Very rarely do people get excited about saying, man, I wish I had that disease. I would like to be on that medication. Look how wonderful it is. It's like, dude, you don't want that kind of problem. If you're an enterprise that doesn't have this kind of problem, I think the problem is we're trying to force AI in places it just doesn't belong. Like, companies are like, hey, could we use AI to tell us how many servers we have? And I was like, you don't know how many servers you have? There's this technology that's been around for a long time. It's called counting. You can take each server and count them, like one time you can count them, and then when you buy a new one, you can put +1. I was like, wow, this is crazy. I was like, yeah, this is crazy, man. What technology is this? I told you it's counting. But if I sell them an LLM and tell it to do it, think about this though. So the LLM, right? So magic, right? And so you tell the customer, all right, you won't listen to me. I'm trying to save you all the money in the world. You can literally go in the data center and count the servers, but you don't want it. You want AI, okay? So we go and get an LLM. What's the first thing we have to do? We have to give the AI access to do this. So let's get complicated. You're a consultant. You know how to make money from these folks. You're like, you know what? You want to count servers with AI? I got you. We're going to install cameras in the data center so we can photograph the entire data center. And we're going to use image processing to count the servers. They're like, oh, yeah, that sounds real innovative. How much is that? Well, it's going to be like $500,000 a year. But will we be innovative? It's like, yeah, you can, on your earnings call, you can say you're using AI technologies to move the company forward. Or you can spend like $3,000 and hire someone to go in there and count the servers. Your choice. Literally, I've seen a lot of scenarios be as dumb as this. The thing is, where's your roadmap? Like, you go to a grocery store. If you go to a grocery store hungry, it's not going to work out well for you. This just doesn't, because you're going to the grocery store for the wrong reason. People who know how to cook, they have like a menu. When I was growing up, there was a menu in the house. My mom knew what ingredients were required for the menu. So when a strategic person goes to the grocery store, they hit aisles very strategically. 1, 7, 9. Out of there. The rookies is going up and down all the aisles. Hey, do you know where the coffee is? Like, oh, you don't shop often, do you? You have no strategy. And so I think technology is the same way. When a company has a really good roadmap, and ask an executive, what would move the needle on your business? For some, if we can just increase customers by 10%, if I can reduce costs by 10%, this should be on your roadmap. These type of opportunities should be clear, right? Our customer service sucks. Right now, the moment someone calls our customer service is the last day that they become a customer. And that's usually an existing problem. So then at that moment, I start to strategize with them. Is it hiring better people? Is it paying them more? Is it using an LLM? But these are things that we can actually test. And right now, I'm not seeing that. Right now, I'm seeing the go to the grocery store because I'm hungry and try to find something that catches my eye. So this idea of like, how can we use this to improve the business? You got to show me the opportunity that you've been thinking about before I showed up. And if LLM's are a good match, of course I might say, hey, we can execute this item on your roadmap with this piece of technology that you may or may not be familiar with. That's been my strategy for a long time. As an executive at Google Cloud, that's how I did things. I think when the Civo team talks about this stuff, we're literally trying to do that pattern matching of what parts of the tech stack does Civo need to ship in order to provide those type of things to people, right? So that would be my advice. Be pragmatic, know the fundamentals, and make sure you don't steer people in the wrong direction. I think we got time for a couple more.
Hi, thanks for coming. I'm a big fan of coding as emotion. My question for you is, it's regarding, I'm an AI engineer now, and it's regarding clearly identifying great use cases for the teams. So it starts off with, we've generated pipelines that use a number of open source tools. So internal analytics processes. We found it difficult on things that are client-facing that are actually successful, as you mentioned, because it's too much from in the inference tuning side. It's just too much possibilities happen in the decision making. What my question is that from your understanding of where agentic AI is now, not just RAG, not LLM, where agentic AI is it moving in the direction where it's only clearly being used for internal operations, or is it at the stage where we can start considering it on client-facing projects?
I love that question. So you've been thinking.
Yeah.
This is like, if you all want to know who to talk to, vendors aside, I won't say anything bad about vendors. But these are the people you should literally talk to. One thing about conferences is that you can talk to each other, actually, is the thing. And this demonstrates that level of thought. Because when you take the hype out and you really got to build something, for 30, 40 years, the purpose of computing was to do something repeatedly with extreme levels of accuracy. And there's a term we use when a thing doesn't do what we said it should do. We call it a bug. Well, I mean, hallucination is a really nice word to this. It's a bug, bro. Right? Like if I ask you something and it gives the wrong answer, we typically say that's not right when it comes to software systems, right? So typically, I want the correct answer. So that initial use case of putting customer service agents in front of customers. And so I'm a frustrated customer. To me, I don't know about you all, you may be different. Calling support or engaging with a chatbot is a failure mode to start with. That means something isn't working. I never want to go to a company and be like, ooh, let me engage with your support system. No. I just want to do the thing you say it does. And then if that doesn't work, now we're into this chatbot. And the thing is, I just went through all of this pain, and the last thing I want to do is describe the context again. Right? So I hate that by default. And so I don't even know why it's broken. So now I'm trying to tell you what's broken. What do you do when you call like your ISP? Did you restart your router? He's like, man, you're the fourth person to ask me that. My router's fine. I restarted before I called. And then let's say I'm engaging with this thing and it gives me the wrong answer. How do I know it's wrong? Is the documentation right or wrong? And what I'm seeing people do now, and I've seen some of these implementations, they're doing observability for these things, meaning someone made a prompt, what was the response? Someone made a prompt, what was the response? And then when there's a discrepancy, someone goes and looks at it and says, which one of these was right? Right? And then they spend all their time either fine-tuning or doing some lookup to say, only give this answer when this prompt occurs, right? This is standard caching mechanism we've been doing for a very long time. So I would say from a customer-facing standpoint, I don't know how you get to extreme accuracy, because if you ever get the right answer once, why would you generate it again? It doesn't even make sense. It's not logical. There's nothing we do today. Like if you have an expensive database query, what do? We run it once, and we cache it for future callers. And then we call that search. So I think a lot of times this idea that LLMs is going to replace everything, I think the smart part is it's a tool. So what's a really nice tool? The agentic workflow, I think some of the demo we saw here. You have a factual thing. Here's a manifest that I want. I made some decisions. I would like you to deploy it. So the job then is to use the right agent underneath the covers, do some pattern matching, MCP, use a description, and apply it. But the thing that's dope to me, so the one area where I will give LLMs credit, it's like a nice new SDK. Instead of giving me back YAML, I can say, give it back to me in an Excel spreadsheet. That is pretty nice, right? Like if I give it factual data that is accurate, and we only ask the LLM to format it in an Excel spreadsheet, that's a pretty powerful use case where I think as a developer, how long would it take me to implement that logic myself using a collection of libraries? So I can see it as a component or predicate, but I don't know if we're going to be any closer, because there is no guarantee when something needs to be 100% accurate. Right, and this is why I think people like the code assistant tools. You can look at the output and make a decision whether you like it or not, or try again until it's right, and then check in the results. Maybe that's not so bad where we are, but I think you're spot on.
Question on that side?
I think we've got time for one more.
At least.
Anybody on this side? I see a hand raised over there.
You're giving up your opportunity, right-hand side.
There's one
Okay.
Hi, name's Jeremy Martinez, and I'm a DevOps engineering consultant. Over the last 5 years, I've seen very complex tools and platforms try to become more abstracted and more automated. I know you mentioned earlier that there's differences, but for the sake of this question, I'm doing both. With all these levels of abstractions that we're giving technology teams, what are the real skill sets that we're going to be seeing become more important in 3 years, 5 years, as we abstract away from the complex platforms?
Man, there's this thing called discipline. In IT, there's like only two things to worry about. Does it work or not? If it works, you ain't got nothing to worry about. If it doesn't work, you only got two things to worry about. Can you fix it or not? If you can fix it, then you ain't got nothing to worry about. If you can't fix it, then you only got two things to worry about. Can somebody else fix it or not? If somebody else can fix it, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if not, you only got two things to worry about. Can you find another job or not? And the reason why I bring up discipline in this scenario, I remember being at a big cloud provider, and I remember some of the customers were really smart. They implemented discipline. They said, you can only use these three services. This pass for hosting, this database, that's it. That company IPO'd with hundreds and millions of customers and tons of revenue. IPO, using three services. Do you remember there was a time where people used to IPO using bare metal servers? Can you believe it? Just straight up call Dell, install the servers, and you could IPO. with regular ass Linux. And it worked. And so when I think about these abstractions, the thing that I see hard, like just doing this for 25 years, there's no discipline. You come to work, hey, we're going to be using Kafka, Redis, and they start naming stuff like, for what? Man, I went to the conference, and this guy said that they were using those, so I think we should too. He's like, but you don't have any messages. Like, I know, but we might. I'm going to re-architect this thing that has been working and making us money to be fragile, brittle, so I have something to do. This happens quite a bit. You see it all the time, right? If you're a DevOps consultant, you come in and be like, why are you doing this? And they're like, man, that person got fired. He couldn't answer that question either. And so we hired you to tell us what to do. And sometimes it's just a clear lack of pragmatism, seriously, for a lot of this. So I think the companies that have discipline, I know it feels very limiting if you're a developer. When you have roles, I used to work at a company called CoreOS. You can only write Golang and C if you're writing operating system code. And we ended the discussion. I'm watching companies like, oh, Node.js just came out. That looks cool. Let's do all of our front end in Node. That's not so great. I think Rust is taking off. We should try that. What's this WASM thing? Now you got 7 different runtimes. If you're in a security space, you got to figure out how to secure all of these things with different levels of capabilities. It's such a tax on the organization that is complete chaos. And most people just need basic building blocks. Servers are real fast. Have you looked at this recently? Servers have up to 1 terabyte of RAM. Some laptops have servers that are bigger than the servers people used to IPO just 10 years ago, your laptop. And so I think that's the number one thing that I see missing from these companies. And I think the last thing that I see from a complexity standpoint, I worked on a lot of new technologies from their genesis to bringing them to market. And the number one thing that happens over time, you get this phrase, make the new thing work the old way. They say it in so many ways, enterprise readiness, integrate with my mainframe, you name it, because these new things have to be compatible with the existing world if they're ever going to work. Those Waymos drive on the existing roads. They don't need new roads in order to work. And I think that's the complexity of technology. We just let people do whatever they want. It feels like a very undisciplined form of engineering because we almost operate without constraints, and we hope the DevOps people patch it up in production. All right. I think that's time.
We could do one more.
One more. Who wants to take
Your
the last one?
answers are getting shorter, which means more questions are allowed to happen.
Got one in the back.
If you, the next question gets a $1,000 Civo credit.
Hi, I'm Csaba Garay. I'm from Hungary. I'm a co-founder of a tiny company called QCAPS, and we do anomaly detection based on AI, and also consultancy for various companies. And there's a new trend I'm sort of seeing that there's something called prompt is the product, right? So you said something about what you think about reusing or regenerating things from the prompt, right? But my question is, at some point, it is going to be the fact that people will just consider one-shotting with a prompt a full-fledged service or product or part of a product. And I just want to, if you can delve into more of what you think about prompt becoming the product and what that means for the infrastructure, because at the end you need to deploy it, right? So as soon as you acknowledge the fact that people will use one-shotting product services, that means you will need to regenerate anyhow or anyway.
So let's just play that out, because that is kind of the North Star that is sometimes portrayed with the potential. I can go and say, build Google.com, and then magically I'm making $20 billion in revenue every quarter by myself. No employees, nothing. Just build me Google.com and just watch the profits roll in. Every person in this world for the grand total of $20 a month could be generating $20 billion in revenue. I can't wait till that world exists. The problem is you will have no customers. Why? Because why would I pay you when I can type the exact same prompt? There's no business for no one. If this is true, we're going to go back to desktop software. Let's just say this is true. Why would you use a SaaS service? It makes no sense. You should generate an app that runs on your laptop that does everything you need it to do. Right? So if that future pans out, most of this room will be unemployed. Period. This is fact. The only thing that will be left is people that make really nice desktop software. That's it. That's what will be left. I don't know if that's going to happen. Because like you said, there's more to this than running or building an app, hosting the app, collecting the data, providing something of value. Remember, we only do these computing platforms for the thing underneath. So you're the DMV, you're the only one in your city, your town, your state that can issue a driver's license. You're the only one. Doesn't matter if someone builds a bot that says, or a chat thing that says, build a driver's license issuer. Doesn't matter. You're not allowed to do that. It's not yours. So maybe the DMVs all do it, but here's the thing. Why would I do it twice? So let's just say this is true, that I type the prompt and it spits out the perfect bug-free, security-hardened application with a single sentence. The next step then is to freeze that into maybe a container image, right? I got the thing that works perfectly, and then any platform in the world should just be able to run it with one command. Run this, right? Perfectly. And so at that moment, no one needs to run that prompt again because the artifact from the prompt is the value, right? And so you may just move into a world where there's a collection of finished things that people could run. But in that world, I just don't know why you just wouldn't run it on your laptop, because why would we go through the internet, send data to a third party that we need to trust? For what reason? I can see maybe transparent backup systems for recovery, but I personally would never use a SaaS product ever again. I would just write prompts or download ones that you wrote a prompt on, right? So maybe it looks closer to music, where someone writes a song, they do it once, they record it once, and you can stream it 1 million times or copy it around to do it forever. So if we get to a world where you can write a prompt, write a hit song that's going to win the next Grammy, great. I don't think anyone wants to listen to it because I can just do the same thing. So I don't know. I don't know if we can just eliminate the human experience around scarcity, brand, taste, style, and uniqueness. So that's just my views on this. I just don't see a world. If it comes, I will be happy. You know why? I'm retired, so it doesn't matter. Hey, I think that's our time. I hope you all understand the pragmatism that's available to you. I am a board member for the Civo team, and people are like, hey, Kelsey, you're retired. Why would you be on the board? It's because they're trying to come back to simplicity. Do you really need 500 services? I watch people IPO on 3 or 4 of them. And I'm hoping that you all talk to each other, learn from the people that are finally doing things in production, and get back to pragmatism. There's a lot of pragmatic sessions on the schedule from people who've actually tried to build this stuff. So go ask them questions, be curious, and talk to each other. Thank you.